Hi everyone, my name is Cassandra and today I'm sharing my experiences with living at home during college as well as my tips and tricks on how to navigate it. So I've been wanting to do a video like this for a while, but I truthfully just wasn't sure if people would relate to it at all. But given the pandemic right now that's disrupted so many students' lives, I felt that it might be the right time to film an advice video. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm a rising senior in college, and while I've thoroughly enjoyed my college experience living at home, this was actually not my intention. My senior year of high school, I actually applied to several out-of-state schools, and I ended up getting accepted into my top 3 schools. So I had my heart set on a school in California. And at the time I was a pre-med student, so I was really excited about their pre-med program and about being in the California area. And so I was really excited, but unfortunately the expected family contribution for the school was too high. And even with a scholarship, it really only ended up taking about $1,000 off of my total tuition, which was going to be about $50,000. So this just wasn't enough, and so I decided to move on to a different school which offered a better financial aid package for me. And now this school was in Minnesota, and I was actually really excited about going to this school as well. I started doing more research about the Minnesota area and about the hospitals and possible internships I could get there. And I ended up being really excited to go there. That was a school that I thought I was going to go to. I decided on it, I settled on it. But then comes June. So after I graduated from high school, I ended up having mixed feelings about this. I was worried about the finances, about the loans that I would have to take out. I was really worried about that. But I was also really concerned for myself. I was in a very vulnerable situation where I had been recovering from a medical problem, and I didn't feel ready to leave my support system or my doctors at home. And I just felt like this was a really scary decision to just like move from home for the first time. And so I sat down with my family and we all decided that it would be best for me to just stay at home for college. And ultimately that is what I did. So real quick, I just want to offer a disclaimer. While I chose to stay home and my family was supportive of my decision, I understand that that is not the case for everybody else. I understand that people have different family dynamics and stuff, so I understand that my situation may not apply. Additionally, when I decided to stay home, the world was in a more normal place. The COVID-19 pandemic hadn't started, and so I wasn't forced to stay home as a lot of people are. I know a lot of students have had to go home because of the COVID-19 situation, or a lot of freshmen who thought they were going to be able to have that traditional college experience ended up not being able to have that. So I completely understand that my situation may be very different, but I'm hoping that there is still some value in what I have to say, regardless of if you're choosing to stay home for personal reasons or for COVID-19 related reasons or whatever it may be. I'm hoping that my tips can help you somehow. So the first tip I have to share with you is to make sure to set boundaries with your family. So living at home in college is way different than living at home in high school. In high school, your schedule is kind of like 8 to 5, you're at school, and then 6 to the next day you're at home. And you have a very strict schedule that your parents or your family members are aware of. In college, you tend to have a very different schedule where you might have class for 2 hours a day, or you might have days off, and your schedule just may be all over the place. And I think that can sometimes translate to people as you only being busy for 2 hours of the day, and maybe you just sit the rest of the day, when in reality you're probably going to be really busy once you start college. While you may only have 2 hours of class a day, you may be having to commute, you may have to go to group meetings, you may have to meet with your advisors, you may have to go to work, etc. So your days are actually pretty busy, and even if your family members don't really see that, it's important for you to let them know what you have going on and what responsibilities you have to attend to, and like just all of these things that can affect your life at home. So an example I have is like my freshman year of college, I had classes in the morning from around 8 to 12, but one of my family members actually ended up getting a puppy, and this puppy needed to go out to go potty frequently, and I had originally planned to come home around 1, but due to the puppy being here, I decided to rearrange my schedule so that I could come home sooner and let her out. And this was just a really easy compromise for me. I communicated ahead of time. My family members knew that I was busy, so they let me know about what they needed, and it was really easy to just find a time for me to take that class that would work with taking care of the puppy as well. Another thing I wanted to touch on is something like curfew. So curfew, to be honest, didn't really apply to me in high school because I was just always really focused on like school stuff and extracurriculars, and on top of that I had those medical issues that I alluded to, so a lot of the time I couldn't even drive myself, so staying out late wasn't too much of a problem for me in high school. But I know from having older siblings and from my other friends that curfew is a really big deal for some families. And when you live at home during college, it can get a little muddy. You are independent, you are an adult, but you still live under somebody else's rules, and it's important to respect that, So it's important to let your parents know if you are going to stay out really late or if you are going to go away for the weekend or anything like that. It doesn't have to be super intense, but you can just, shoot them a text saying, hey, I'm going to be out later than I expected, or let them know, sit down with them, say that maybe you and your friends are going to go out for the weekend and you won't be home till Sunday night or something like that. It's just important to be respectful of your other family members' rules or whatever expectations they may have. So along these lines of being responsible towards your family members is being responsible towards yourself. So one of the first things you can take on is administrative tasks. So these can include setting up doctor's appointments for yourself, paying your own bills, setting up your own meetings with advisors, just things that perhaps your parents might have done for you, or you had like help from teachers or something in the past, but now is a really great time to start doing that for yourself. It can be really overwhelming at the beginning, but I think as long as you take baby steps, as long as you just try your best, don't be afraid to ask for help, you will be able to slowly incorporate more responsibilities, and these will start to become a lot less daunting. So the next thing that I would encourage you to focus on is your budgeting. So depending on if you work or not, this may look different, but in general, it's really important to look at how much you are spending, how much you are earning. So I might make a video on how I like to budget my money in the future. But in general, it's important to just sit down at least like once a month. I check it once or twice a week. But to just check your bank account, look at what you're making, what you're spending money on. And what you may find is that you may be able to save more money or spend less money than you are. An example I have to give for you for that is my brother. So my older sibling went to a really expensive school, and he ended up having to work part-time. But what he ended up finding was that he could have saved a lot more money if he hadn't worked during school. And the reason for this is because his school actually maxed out credits at 12 credits a semester, I think. Which means that basically he could have spent the same money taking 18 credits as 12 credits. So what this means is that instead of working for part-time, he could have been taking class and just trying to complete his college requirements and stuff, and he could have graduated early, and he could have saved a lot of time and a lot of money if he had just paid more attention on the nitty-gritty details of like tuition statements and stuff like that. So it's really important to just look at like what you're spending for school and stuff and see if you can make any adjustments. And the final thing that I think comes with responsibilities is like learning how to time manage. So this is something that we can all improve on. Living at home offers you the opportunity to maybe change something that you did in high school and try out different methods. So for me, what I like to use is like a planner. It can be any sort of planner. It's like, this is just a basic student planner from Target. And in it, I just write in like my assignments or my due dates for projects, doctor's appointments, anything that might come up. And I just use that to keep track of what I have going on in my life. And I also like to use like my phone apps to keep track of any appointments and reminders for myself and stuff like that. Once you kind of get into the habit of tracking things, it'll be easier once again to see where you can maybe improve on time management. Maybe you spend too long on one task that can actually take you less time, and you may be able to move things around so that you're able to have more time for the things you like. So these are things that I just think any college student, but especially if you're living at home, to try to keep track of. So now I'm going to talk about making friends. And I do want to add a quick disclaimer. With the COVID-19 situation, I have no idea what it's going to be like moving forward. If classes are online or if schools are remote, I have no idea how this is going to impact the way that people connect with each other on college campuses. So please bear that in mind, but I do hope that this is somehow helpful. I also want to say that I'm a pretty introverted and shy person, so making friends has always been a little complicated for me just because I'm scared of reaching out to people. But I told my brother this, and he advised me and said to try to sit at the front of the classroom for every class, because that's where the more extroverted and outgoing people tend to be. And speaking with these people, it's actually a little bit easier. If there's two shy people sitting next to each other, it's very likely that neither of them are going to talk. But if you sit next to someone who's a little more outgoing, it's likely that they will start the conversation and everything will run smoothly after that. An example I have for that is I ended up going to a biology class or something, and I sat near the front, and I had my laptop open taking notes, and the girl sitting next to me ended up noticing one of my stickers. It was a sticker for a book that we both liked, and she ended up telling me that she liked the book, and we ended up going into this whole conversation about it, and to this day we are still friends, and this happened freshman year. So this technique does work, and it can be just as simple as that. I also wanted to address the fact that when you stay at home, you kind of miss out on a lot of the traditional college things where, a lot of people go to college, go to dorms, and they become friends with their dorm mates or their neighbors. They may be pledging to a sorority. When you live at home, these opportunities aren't available. My school doesn't even have Greek life, so there isn't really any chance for this. But I do encourage you that if you see your friends, like if your friends from high school go off to college and start experiencing these things that you aren't, to not feel upset or lost. They're just experiencing something different, and it is possible to maintain your friendship. But I do want to let you know that if it seems like they are a little distant at first, that's fine. They are adjusting to their new lives, living away from home for the first time, being surrounded by a lot of people their own age for the first time. And of course, this is going to be overwhelming for them. So if it seems like they are a little distant at first, that's to be expected, and I think that's completely normal. If they are really your friends and if they really value you as a person, they will make time. Just make sure to respect that boundary. But in general, I do still keep in touch with some of my friends from high school, and the fact that we go to different schools, and the fact that we aren't in the same state all the time, although it's different now with COVID, this doesn't change anything. We are all still really good friends, so that is a possibility as well. My next tip has to do with self-care and valuing yourself as a person. When I first started college, I wanted to revamp my entire wardrobe, and this was mainly because I had gone to a private school and my dress code had been super strict, and so I wanted to wear clothes that I hadn't been able to wear before. So I ended up donating a lot of my old clothes and buying clothing from like Misguided and Doll's Kill, just to get to experiment for once, and I really enjoyed this. I felt that it really benefited me and it helped me to kind of experiment with my wardrobe and my style and stuff. So I highly recommend trying something like that if you are able to. Another thing that I would consider is maybe changing up your room. So for me, this wasn't really an issue when I first started college, but I am currently renovating my bedroom. Just because I'm finding that I need different things for my room now. So if you're starting college and you feel like you could do with a touch-up of your bedroom, I highly recommend that. So maybe your high school decoration doesn't really vibe with you anymore or something like that. I encourage you to try to maybe change out your comforter, or to maybe buy a few decorations, whatever you can afford, whatever resources you have. It's really simple to just take a few steps to really make your space your own and have it be what you need it to be. And the last thing I highly encourage you to do is to partake in more self-care. So in college, you're going to be really busy and you have a lot of responsibilities, and through all of that, it's important to have some time for yourself. So for me at least, that's like setting aside the hour before I go to sleep to get to read something. I love reading, so for me, getting to read before bed helps me feel happy and relaxed. It helps me feel like I had a good day. So that works for me, but it can be something like working out, or playing with your dogs, or chatting on the phone with your friends, or playing a video game, or doing like a hair mask, or whatever it is that makes you feel happy and calm and safe. I highly encourage you to schedule time in your day to do that. So my last tip is to find an advocate for yourself. So for me, this person is my older sibling. He went to college recently. He understands what it's like to be a student during these hard financial times, and he's able to kind of act as a mediator between me and my parents sometimes when there is conflict. So parents can be overbearing. They may not understand. They may just have a different perspective. You may not see eye to eye with them. And so it's important to have some adult figure in your life who you can ask for advice, or who can help you navigate conflicts with your parents. So even if it's not an older sibling, it can be an aunt or an uncle or another family friend or something like that. But it's just really important to have like a third party involved between you and your parents, so that you can try to solve conflicts and try to meet each other eye to eye. Having an advocate for that can really help. So that is it for me today. I hope that these tips were helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to try to answer them. And also feel free to share any advice that you may have about staying at home for college. and I'm sure people would appreciate seeing that as well. I hope that whatever your situation may be, I hope that it goes well for you and that you end up having a great college experience. So thank you so much for watching it, and have a good day.